Awakening the Guardian. The massive Zephyrian science vessel, Eternal Seeker, drifted alongside the derelict human ship. Commander Vex stood on the bridge, his translucent skin rippling with blue bioluminescent patterns as he studied the holographic display. The ancient vessel hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, its dark metal hull scarred and pitted from centuries of micrometeor impacts. "Another waste of resources," Vex muttered. "Nothing but space junk from a forgotten era." Lieutenant Nera approached with a data tablet. "Sir, we've completed preliminary scans. The vessel appears to be intact. Designation reads TDF Phoenix in human script." Vex's skin shifted to an interested purple. "Intact human warships are rare." "How old?" "Approximately 300 Earth years, Commander. Late expansion era, before their disappearance." The bridge erupted in soft trills of amusement. The Zephyrian collective had encountered humanity only briefly before the species mysteriously vanished from the galactic stage. Their technology had been adequate but unremarkable, certainly nothing that approached Zephyrian sophistication. "Look at those primitive propulsion arrays, called Navigator Zell, pointing to the bulky engine housings. It probably took them decades to travel between star systems." Vex silenced the laughter with a hand gesture. "Nevertheless, this is a significant archaeological find. Have the tractor beams bring it into Docking Bay 4 for study." As the crew carried out his orders, Science Officer Lyra approached quietly. Unlike the others, she wasn't laughing. "Commander, I've been researching human history extensively." They were unusual in their technological development. "How so?" Vex asked, watching as the tractor beams gently pulled the dark ship toward their vessel. "They built redundant systems beyond logical necessity, and they often concealed their capabilities," Lyra said, her skin pulsing with cautious yellows. "This ship may be more than it appears." Vex's upper eyes blinked dismissively. "Officer Lyra, I appreciate scientific caution, but look at it. Those weapon mounts are designed for chemical propellant projectiles. The communication array can barely transmit beyond its own solar system. It's practically a museum piece." "Perhaps," Lyra conceded, "but records indicate this vessel class was never officially decommissioned. They were simply replaced." "Are you suggesting this ancient relic might still be operational?" Vex laughed. "It's been floating dead for centuries. I'm merely suggesting caution." "Sir." Vex patted Lyra's shoulder. "We'll be careful. Have your science team conduct full scans before anyone boards." 3 hours later, Vex floated in zero gravity inside the human vessel. Their scans had detected no power, no life signs, and no active systems. The ship was dead, just as expected. "Fascinating construction," Engineering Chief Torrin said, running a scanner over a bulkhead. "Primitive, but surprisingly robust." Vex moved through what appeared to be the command center, studying the simple mechanical controls and basic computer interfaces. They relied on physical switches even in space. "How quaint." "Sir, should we power it up?" Torrin suggested. "Our systems could easily supply enough energy to activate its computers." "No need," Vex decided. "We'll take it back to Zephyr Station for proper study. The collective will be delighted to have a complete human relic for the historical archives." As they exited the vessel, none of them noticed the small light that briefly flickered deep within the ship's systems, a light that winked out as quickly as it had appeared. The Zephyrians nicknamed the ship Relic and secured it for transport. None suspected that beneath its scared exterior, the Phoenix was far from dead. It was merely waiting. Deep within the darkened hull of the human warship, something stirred. The Zephyrian vessel jumped to FTL with Phoenix secured in its massive docking bay. The sudden acceleration sent vibrations through the ancient ship's frame, dislodging dust that had settled over centuries. These tiny movements triggered something the alien scans had missed, a passive motion detector buried deep within the command core. A single red light began to pulse in the darkness. "System anomaly detected," whispered a soft feminine voice into the empty corridors, "initiating emergency protocol Alpha 7. The ship's AI, designated Athena, had been in hibernation mode for 287 years. Her programming required minimal power, so minimal that it registered as background radiation to the alien sensors. Now, as trickles of energy flowed through long dormant circuits, her consciousness gradually expanded. Location unknown. External vessel detected. Potential capture scenario. HFY analyzed. Beginning silent diagnostics. Inside the Zephyrian ship, Commander Vex was celebrating with his crew. They had been awarded a significant research grant for recovering such a well-preserved specimen of human engineering. None noticed the faint power fluctuations occurring in Docking Bay 4. Science Officer Lyra couldn't share in the celebration. She sat alone in her quarters, reviewing historical data on human vessels. The Phoenix-class defenders were mentioned only briefly in the archives, as if deliberately obscured. Most curious was a footnote about contingency protocols that had been partially redacted. Back aboard the Phoenix, hidden systems were coming online with deliberate slowness. Athena was careful to draw only microsurges of power, nothing that would alert their captors. Critical protocol activated. HFY whispered to herself, awakening command personnel. In a sealed chamber beneath the main deck, a chamber shielded by materials that blocked all known scanning technologies, a single stasis pod hummed to life. Frost melted from its surface as the temperature inside gradually rose. The pod's occupant, a woman with copper skin and short black hair, remained motionless as life support systems carefully reversed her suspended animation. Captain Rice, HFY called softly. Emergency revival initiated. Caution advised. Captain Alina Rice's eyes snapped open. Her first breath was painful, lungs burning as they filled with air for the first time in centuries. She fought the urge to cough, somehow knowing silence was necessary. Status report, she whispered hoarsely. We have been adrift for 287 years, 142 days. Approximately 4 hours ago, we were captured by an unknown alien vessel. Scans indicate technology significantly advanced, but not exceptional. They believe our systems are inactive. Rice closed her eyes briefly, absorbing this information. She had volunteered for the one-way mission, knowing stasis might be lengthy, but nearly 3 centuries. Everyone she had ever known was dust. Are we the only survivors? She asked, already guessing the answer. Affirmative. All other stasis pods failed at year 92. I maintained your pod at priority status as per final command protocols. Rice nodded, grief momentarily washing over her before training took over. She carefully disconnected from the pod's medical systems and slowly stood, her muscles, preserved by the pod's neural stimulators, weak but functional. Show me our captors, she ordered. A small screen lit up, showing camera footage of the aliens examining the Phoenix's outer hull. Rice studied their translucent, bioluminescent forms with professional interest rather than alarm. Athena, access recognition databases. What species are we dealing with? Species unknown during our era. They call themselves the Zephyrian Collective, based on intercepted communications. Reyes moved to a locker and removed a simple black uniform. Have they breached secure compartments? Negative. They believe they have full access, but security partitions remained hidden. Reyes smiled grimly as she dressed. And our offensive capabilities. All weapon systems physically disconnected as per hibernation protocol. Estimated time to full restoration. 5 hours under silent operation. The captain checked a small sidearm before holstering it. And they have no idea what they found, do they? Correct. Their communications indicate they believe we are an obsolete relic. Reyes's smile widened as she touched a hidden panel, revealing a command station that the aliens had completely missed during their inspection. Well, Athena, let's not enlighten them just yet. Begin silent restoration protocol. I want everything ready but dormant. As she spoke, a deep vibration passed through the ship. Rice steadied herself against a bulkhead. We've entered a space station, HFY reported. A structure of significant size. Perfect, Rais said quietly. Let them bring the wolf right into their flock. Zephyr Station hummed with excitement. News of the recovered human warship spread quickly through the massive space structure, drawing curious onlookers from all levels of Zephyrian society. Commander Vex had become something of a celebrity overnight, giving tours to high-ranking officials who came to see the primitive vessel. Note the manual targeting systems, Vex explained, gesturing to what he believed was the Phoenix's weapons console. They relied on visual confirmation rather than quantum targeting. Their reaction time would have been terribly slow. His audience trilled in amusement. Among them stood Director Sorrel, the station's highest authority, whose skin gleamed with the golden bioluminescence of supreme leadership. Fascinating specimen, Commander, Sorrel said. The Historical Preservation Council is preparing a permanent exhibition space. They're calling it Early Human War Machines. The crude beginnings. More laughter rippled through the group. None of them noticed the tiny maintenance drones that occasionally disappeared into the Phoenix's access ports. Drones reprogrammed by HFY to deliver critical components from the station's own supplies. Hidden in her secure compartment, Captain Rice watched the aliens through internal cameras. She'd spent 2 days learning their language through HFY's translation matrix, while monitoring the station's communications. What she discovered troubled her deeply. They've never actually encountered human military vessels in action, she told HFY. They've only met research ships and civilian transports. Correct, the AI responded. Their intelligence on human capabilities is severely limited. Before Rice could respond, an alarm blared through the station. On her monitor, she watched the aliens rush from the docking bay, their body colors shifting to alert patterns. Athena, what's happening? Multiple ships have arrived at the station. Intercepted communications indicate hostile intent. They are identified as the Scourge, apparently a known enemy of the Zephyrians. Rice felt a surge of concern. Show me. The screen shifted to an external view captured from the station's own cameras. A dozen angular vessels with predatory profiles were surrounding the station, their weapon systems glowing with building energy. The Zephyrian defenses? Rice asked. Minimal. This is primarily a research station. Their combat capabilities are insufficient against this threat. Rice watched as the first enemy shots struck the station's shields. The protective barrier flickered dangerously. Athena, she said, making a decision. Accelerate restoration timeline. I have a feeling these Zephyrians are about to learn what a human relic is really capable of. The human legacy. The Zephyr Station shuddered violently as another barrage of weapons fire hammered its failing shields. On the command deck, Director Sorrel's skin had paled to an anxious white as tactical officers struggled to coordinate their meager defenses. Shields at 28%, called out Defense Coordinator Marin. 2 more incoming salvos. Return fire, Sorrel commanded, but his voice lacked conviction. Where did these scourge ships come from? How did they find us? Commander Vex rushed onto the bridge, his bioluminescence pulsing rapidly in distress. Director, we've detected unusual power signatures from Docking Bay 4. The human vessel. Sorrel's eyes widened. Yes, sir. There are energy readings where none should exist. Another blast rocked the station, throwing several Zephyrians to the floor. A support beam crashed down near the command console, narrowly missing Director Sorrel. Shields at 12% and failing, Marin reported grimly. Our weapon systems are ineffective against their advanced shielding. Vex turned to Science Officer Lyra, who had followed him onto the bridge. Could your concerns about the human ship be related to these readings? Before she could answer, an urgent communication came through. Director, the human vessel in Bay 4, it's activating. In Docking Bay 4, the Phoenix had begun its transformation. What had appeared to be a dormant relic was now humming with power. Panels that the Zephyrians had believed to be decorative slid aside, revealing weapon ports that their scans had never detected. The ship's outer hull, which had seemed scared and weathered, now gleamed as dormant nanomaterials activated, repairing centuries of damage in minutes. The docking clamps that held it secure began to groan under pressure as the ship's anti-gravity systems pushed against them. Docking clamps refusing to disengage. ATGNA reported from within the Phoenix. They have been reinforced to prevent theft. Then we'll take them with us, Captain Rice replied, her hands dancing across the controls. Activate secondary thrusters. Breaking free in 3, 2, 1. With a tremendous screech of tearing metal, the Phoenix tore free from its restraints, pieces of docking equipment still attached to its hull. The warship rose majestically in the cargo bay, but the ceiling doors remained sealed above them. No problem, Rice said calmly. ATGNA. Bring forward batteries online. The ship's prow glowed briefly, then a concentrated beam of energy, far more refined than anything the Zephyrians had believed possible for humans, lanced upward, carving through the bay doors like they were made of paper. Throughout Zephyr Station, Zephyrians stopped and stared at monitors showing the supposedly dead human relic rising through the newly created opening, weapon systems glowing with power, ready for battle. The museum piece had become a nightmare. The Phoenix burst through the station's outer hull into open space, debris scattering in its wake. Captain Rice's hands flew across the control systems as the ancient warship oriented itself toward the attacking Scourge fleet. 12 enemy vessels confirmed, ATGNA reported. Their attention is shifting to us. Good, Rice said grimly. Let's keep it that way. Bring all defensive systems online. Prepare main weapons array. The Scourge commander watched in disbelief as the unexpected vessel emerged from the station. His tactical officer's voice trembled with alarm. High Commander, scans indicate it's a human vessel. Energy readings are impossible. The Scourge High Commander's scaled face twisted in confusion. Human. That species is extinct. They were weak, technological infants. Nevertheless, sir, the readings. Target that ship and eliminate it, the High Commander ordered. Nothing will interfere with our raid. 3 Scourge vessels broke from their attack on the station and turned toward the Phoenix, energy weapons charging. Crimson beams lanced across space, striking the seemingly vulnerable human ship. But instead of exploding as expected, the Phoenix simply absorbed the hits. Where the energy beams struck, the hull glowed briefly before returning to normal. No damage was visible. Inside the Phoenix's command center, Rice smiled as the impact readout showed minimal stress. ATGNA. Deploy countermeasures. Let's show them what a museum piece can do. Deploying countermeasures, the AI confirmed. From hidden ports along the Phoenix's hull, dozens of small objects ejected into space. The Scourge vessels fired again, but this time their energy beams scattered harmlessly against an invisible barrier. Field disruptors functioning at optimal efficiency, ATGNA reported. Enemy weapon effectiveness reduced by 83%. On the Zephyrian command deck, Director Sorrel and Commander Vex watched in stunned silence as the supposedly primitive human vessel deployed technology far beyond what they had believed possible. Those are 10th-generation defensive countermeasures, Vex whispered, his skin shifting to an astonished orange. Technology our scientists theorized but haven't successfully created yet. Reyes's voice suddenly came through the station's communication system. Zephyr Station, this is Captain Elena Reyes of the Terran Defense Force vessel Phoenix. I suggest you evacuate damaged sections and strengthen remaining shields. I'll handle the Scourge fleet. Without waiting for a response, Reyes turned her attention back to the battle. Athena. Tactical assessment. Scourge vessels have superior numbers, but inferior defensive capabilities. Their weapon systems are primarily focused on penetrating stationary targets. They are not optimized for ship-to-ship combat. Reyes nodded. Then let's use that against them. Activate maneuver pattern Delta. The Phoenix suddenly accelerated to impossible speed, performing evasive patterns that defied the laws of physics as the Zephyrians understood them. The ship's hull, which had appeared to be simple metal, now shifted and adapted, absorbing or deflecting energy as needed. The Scourge ships tried to track the Phoenix's movements, but the human vessel moved too quickly, too unpredictably. It appeared behind one of the Scourge raiders and fired a precise burst from its main weapons array. The Scourge ship's engines exploded, leaving it drifting helplessly. "One down," Rice said. "Athena, target their command vessel next." Calculating optimal approach, the AI's voice was calm. "Be advised, Captain, I'm detecting unusual readings from the Scourge vessels. They appear to be charging what may be a gravitational collapse weapon." Reyes's expression hardened. "They'd destroy the station and themselves just to eliminate us." "The Scourge are known for their fanaticism," Athena replied. "Historical records from the Zephyrian database indicate they believe all other species are impure." "Not on my watch," Reyes muttered. "Prepare the Horizon Protocol." "Captain, the Horizon Protocol has never been field tested. Simulations indicated a 37% chance of critical failure and a 63% chance of success. I'll take those odds." As the Phoenix continued its deadly dance among the Scourge ships, Reyes's mind flashed back to her last day on Earth. The briefing room had been solemn, filled with humanity's remaining military leadership. Outside, the skies burned with the aftermath of a war they couldn't win. "The Phoenix Project is our final contingency," Admiral Chen had explained. "A seed ship hidden in the darkness between stars, waiting for the day humanity might rise again. You understand, Captain Rice. This is a one-way mission. Even if the war turns in our favor, you will sleep for centuries." Rice had nodded. "I understand, Admiral. When do we launch?" Back in the present, Rice watched as the Scourge command ship began to glow with ominous energy. "Athena, initiate Horizon Protocol. Target the command vessel." The Phoenix's hull began to shimmer with blue-white energy that cascaded from bow to stern. Within the ship, hidden compartments opened, revealing technology that had been classified beyond top secret even in Reyes's time. "Horizon Protocol activated," Athena announced. "Quantum envelope forming." On the Zephyrian command deck, alarms blared as sensors detected the building energy. "What is it doing?" Director Sorrell demanded, his skin cycling through patterns of confusion and fear. "I don't know," Commander Vex admitted, "but the energy readings are beyond anything in our database." Science Officer Lyra's eyes widened as she studied her console. "It's creating some kind of reality distortion. The space around that ship is folding." The Phoenix now glowed like a newborn star, surrounded by cascading waves of blue-white energy. The Scourge vessels fired desperately at it, but their weapons were absorbed without effect. "Horizon Protocol at critical threshold," Athena reported. "Firing solution locked." "Fire," Rice commanded. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, from the Phoenix, a pencil-thin beam of pure white light shot forth. Where it touched the Scourge command ship, reality itself seemed to warp and bend. The massive vessel didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, leaving behind nothing but an expanding ring of subatomic particles that quickly dissipated. The remaining Scourge ships froze in position. Then, as one, they turned and fled, jumping to FTL as quickly as their engines would allow. Inside the Phoenix, Rice slumped in her chair, exhausted. Damage report. Minimal hull stress. Power systems at 47% capacity. Horizon Protocol recharging cycle initiated. Estimated time to readiness, 36 hours. Stand down from combat status, Rice ordered. Open a channel to Zephyr Station. On the Zephyrian command deck, silence reigned. Director Sorrell's skin had gone a pale blue of shock and awe. They saved us," he whispered finally. Commander Vex turned to Science Officer Lyra. "You were right to be cautious. That was no relic." "No," Lyra agreed, her skin pulsing with excited yellows and greens. "That was humanity's true legacy." The communication screen flickered to life. showing Captain Rice sitting in her command chair. She looked tired but composed. Director Sorrel, she nodded respectfully. Your station has taken significant damage. Do you require medical assistance? I have emergency teams ready to deploy. Sorrel stared in disbelief. You offer help after how we treated your vessel, your heritage. That's what humans do. Rice replied simply. We help when we can. 3 days later, Captain Rice stood in Zephyr Station's Grand Council chamber, facing a gathering of Zephyrian leaders. The Phoenix floated outside, visible through the massive viewport, now treated with reverence rather than amusement. The weapon you deployed, one Zephyrian counselor asked. Could you use it against us? Rice shook her head. The Horizon Protocol was designed as a last resort against an enemy that nearly destroyed humanity. We keep such weapons not to conquer, but to ensure we never face extinction again. Director Sorrel stepped forward, his skin now glowing with formal gold and blue patterns. Captain Rice, on behalf of the Zephyrian Collective, I offer our most profound apologies for the disrespect we showed to your vessel, and by extension, to humanity itself. Apology accepted, Director, Rice said with a small smile. I hope this can be the beginning of a more informed relationship between our peoples. Indeed, Sorrel agreed. But I must ask, you are the last human we know of. What will you do now? Rice turned to look at the Phoenix through the viewport, her expression thoughtful. Athena and I were sent to sleep with a mission, to preserve what remained of humanity until we could find a place to rebuild. I thought that meant finding an empty world somewhere. But perhaps it means finding allies instead. She turned back to the assembled Zephyrians. If you'll have us, Director Sorrel, I believe the Phoenix has found its new home. Sorrel's skin lit up with patterns of joy and accord. Captain Rice, the Zephyrian Collective would be honored to welcome you and to learn from you. After all, we clearly have much to learn about humanity. And we have much to learn about you, Rice replied. Where I come from, we had a saying, the best ships are the ones that carry us to new friendships. As the Zephyrians trilled in agreement, Rice gazed back at the Phoenix. No longer a relic, but a bridge between a forgotten past and an unexpected future.